Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us wherever you're located today. We're going to get started here in about 1 minute. We'll give another minute for people to join right until the top of the hour. And alrighty, it's time. So thank you so much for joining us wherever you're located today. I'm so excited for our session. I'm joined by some really great people from Scylla as well as here at Trackforce to talk all about AI-driven security from detection to action. But before we jump in, since we're sharing new and upcoming product information, I want to read through a quick safe harbor statement. Our discussion may include predictions, estimates, or other information that might be considered forward-looking. While these forward-looking statements represent our current judgment on what the future holds, they are subject to risks and uncertainties that could cause actual results to differ materially. You are cautioned not to place undue reliance on these forward-looking statements, which reflect our opinions only as of the date of this presentation. Please keep in mind that we are not obligating ourselves to revise or publicly release the results of any revision to these forward-looking statements in light of new information or future events. All right, let's jump into our content. All right, so it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers today. First off, I'm Kara Hendricks, Director of Product Marketing here at Trackforce, and I'll be kind of moderating this session today. And so the real stars of the show is going to be my colleague James Benham, Chief Strategy Officer here at Trackforce. And then from Scylla, we actually had a last minute change in our speakers. Ashot wasn't able to join because he actually just welcomed a new baby boy. So congrats to Ashot. But not to worry, we have Chris Greiner, VP of Sales, and in Ashot's place, we have Albert Stepanian, their president and CEO, to walk us all through the Scylla solution in a demo. And let's jump in. Okay, so we have about 30 minutes worth of content for you today, and then we'll leave plenty of time to answer questions from the audience. With that said, that's a great reminder. If you do have a question anytime throughout, please use the Q&A box in Zoom to submit your question, and we will be going through all the questions at the end. We've left time at the end of the session to get all of your questions answered. And if for any reason we aren't able to answer all of them, we'll follow up with you directly. All right, so today we're talking all about the partnership between Trackforce and Scylla. We'll cover a bit about each of their solutions, how AI is really shaping and changing physical security and incident response, and of course, provide a demonstration of the platforms working together. Okay, now I'm going to hand it off to James.
Thanks, Kara. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on which time zone you're in. Super excited to be here to kind of take you through this partnership and obviously the integration between Trackforce and Scylla. So a bit of background just on Trackforce. We're really a security workforce management platform that really helps our customers kind of centralize workforce optimization, empower guards with automated tours, mobile patrols, and response for kind of consistent service delivery. We provide reporting and analytics that surround all security operations to help our customers identify trends and drive insights. But ultimately, at the end of the day, our customers are using the platform to really demonstrate their value to their customers. And we'll talk more about what that means around guard performance and risk management later. So if we double click on the platform, there's really kind of two sides to it, right? So there's what's happening in the field, which is how do you protect your people, your assets and property? So there's different capabilities out there around on-site activities with respect to guard tour, incident reporting, asset tracking, and then mobile capabilities for mobile guarding, and then command center type capabilities around dispatch and alarm monitoring, which we'll talk more about today. On the back office, we have a series of capabilities that help companies really manage schedules, time and labor, break management, lone worker protection. So all of the operational things that you need to leverage to really run your company effectively, all the way through to calculating gross payroll, pushing that into HR partners and accounting for all of that within ERP systems. All the while that's underpinned by data services. So we have a product called Data Lab, which allows you to create dashboards and visualize security and operational data in different ways, data replication to take that out and mix that with other data repositories or other solutions in data lakes or data warehousing solutions. And then at the end of the day, an open API, which is what we'll be leveraging today to really talk about this integration. So if we go to the next slide. So before we get into it, we really wanted to start with the AI promise in physical security. And so what does that really mean, right? So if we think about the end of false alarms, right? So for folks in the Security Operations Center, wouldn't that be great if we could really truly end false alarms through leveraging AI? How do we continue to drive surveillance, but it's verified surveillance 24/7? So how do we account for that? It's very difficult for humans to really do that every second, every minute of the day. And then adding in security guards as a force multiplier. So we'll talk more about what that means in terms of last mile response. And then ultimately, how do we increase coverage, whether that's, square footage, et cetera, but around leveraging autonomous devices or what we would call mobile cameras. And we'll get into some of that. But let's pause for a second and we'll take a quick poll from the audience just with respect to their view. And we'll take 30 seconds for people to vote on kind of where do they think the biggest impact is going to come from AI in their business. All right. So hopefully it's not a difficult multiple choice exam here, but maybe we can start to look at some of the answers. So it looks pretty evenly split across the audience, which is super interesting. So clearly, problems abound across false alarms. How do we scale guarding operations? How do we truly be proactive around security? So very interesting, but it's great to see that kind of we're hitting on some hot spots here. All right, so I'll hand it over to Chris at Scylla, who will kind of give us a quick overview on their capabilities.
Yeah, thank you, James. Let me start off with just tell you who Scylla is and what we do. So Scylla has developed a deep learning neural network, which is a true AI. And what it does is it analyzes video streams live and in real time, and it replaces an operator trying to watch those live video cameras with the AI. And the AI can watch, humans can only watch 4 or 5 cameras, 4 or 5 minutes before we start missing things. But the AI can watch for objects, actions, anomalies, behaviors. It's true computer vision. So anything that you can teach or tell or train a human to stand sentry and watch for, as an event, the AI can do it better. Never blinks, doesn't look away, never gets tired. It just quietly monitors those video streams that it's told to monitor for those actions. We train the AI under the umbrella of physical security and safety. So the things that the AI can identify: visible weapons, guns. We can tell the difference between rifles, shotguns, handguns. We're not just an object recognition platform either. There's a true decision-making capabilities involved. And so our visible weapon detection is and has been the most accurate detection on the planet. We've never lost a side-by-side accuracy or comparison test. We also have trained the AI to watch for intrusion detection. Many things that we do it all the way down to the body part. So a lot of people will ask, what's the difference between the analytics that I get free in the camera versus Scylla's analytics? And my response to that is the things that you get in the camera, they're basically consumer grade. It's not really even a true AI. It's just a rules-based pixelation. If the pixels line up in the form of a stick man, it must be a human. But with Scylla, we do it down to the body part. So if a guy gets down and crawls on the ground, Scylla looks at it and says that's a man crawling on the ground or a man on all fours. We're not going to mistake him for the animal that's on all fours. We also have the ability to track people from camera to camera, bags left behind. We have trained the AI to watch for fights and different levels of aggression. For us to even say that we're a face recognition company does the neural network a disservice. it's a brain with a perfect memory that memorizes every face that it sees. As far as we've trained the AI to watch for visible smoke and visible fire. Well, everything from a wildfire in California to a dumpster fire to fire in a trash bin in an office, the AI will identify and see that visible flame, that visible smoke, long before that smoke ever hits a smoke detector or anybody calls it in. Access control, the AI will verify that the person using the access card is actually the face on file, that nobody stole that access card, that nobody found it or was loaning it out. We'll also pick up tailgaters. Not only tell you that somebody's tailgating, but tell you who is tailgating and find them on the enterprise. The AI's, for us to say, vehicle identification and tracking, just like FaceRack, for us to say that we're an LPR company, does the neural network a disservice. It's a brain with a perfect memory that memorizes the tag of every vehicle that it sees. And this is regardless of the camera, by the way. We are camera agnostic. We're VMS agnostic. If we can get access to that video feed, Sky will work with it. And on a really simplistic, we're not asking people to go out and buy special cameras or special equipment or special infrastructure. We're a plug-in to that organization's existing system. Kind of like if you take a 10-year-old TV on a really simplistic level, you take a 10-year-old TV, you plug a Roku stick into it, you just made it smart. With Scylla, you plug our server-based brain into an organization's existing camera system, and we just turn those cameras into an eye for our brain. And then you tell it what to watch for, just like you tell a human operator in a SOC. And then that's when we can trigger action. So when we do see an event or alert, what we were told to stand sentry and watch for, that's when everything is triggered. At the same time, we're giving the real-time notifications to a SOC. We're sending out push alert. We're feeding it into the Trackforce system, and then that's when everything takes place.
Perfect. So I'll take over from Chris here and just talk a little bit about how the kind of response landscape is evolving as we think about identifying those incidents. So if we think, there's a few elements we want to hit on here. So the first one is really around wasted resources. So 98% of security operations center alarms are false positives today in the traditional kind of CCTV world. So a lot of wasted time on watching cameras, right? As we build on that, slow responses. So typical average security guard response dispatch time is roughly 15 minutes, much longer for public law enforcement, unfortunately. But we see a lot of slow response times out in incident response. If you look at how quickly criminals can act, so within 90 seconds, it's the average time for theft or robbery events. So stuff happens very quickly. So we need to be able to not go back and rewind a recording to find out what happened in the past, but actually be proactive and get in front of it. And then I think that the last one is just how do we ensure that guards are prepared? So when they're actually going into a situation, how do we drive situational awareness? Because most intruders are more likely to be armed these days, unfortunately, than not. So how do we ensure they have the right assets and the right skills to go into the right situation? So what if, every threat could be verified before it notified an operator? How do we kind of think about incident response time if it was measured in seconds and not minutes or even hours in some cases? And then what if guards really knew what type of situation they were walking into before they walked onto the scene, right? So I think a lot of situational awareness is going to drive improvement around safety. But maybe let's pause there for a quick poll. It's our last one, I promise, but let's kind of go through how would you describe your deployment or use of AI or computer vision models into your security strategy or your services? It'll take 30 seconds to do this one. All right, perfect. So maybe we can check in on the poll responses here. All right, so we have a clear winner and kind of non-existent. We aren't using any 43%. Minimal, so early stage is 32, intermediate 15%, and advanced is around kind of 15% of our crowd. So really appreciate the feedback. It's great to kind of understand kind of where people are at these days. Okay, so we want to talk about one customer situation. And so this is really a customer of Avante Security who's leveraging both Scylla and Trackforce, the TrackTik platform, to really drive faster responses for high net worth residential clients. So really, they're looking at thousands of dispatches a month. So speed and precision is everything. They need to find the right resources to put them in place for their high net worth residential clients in the least amount of time. And so that means it's super important to drive faster response, greater deterrence, but ultimately also improve the safety of the families that they protect. So pretty meaningful. We're actively kind of rolling out and understanding the impact that this integration is really going to have for Avante, but stay tuned for more. As we go into the next slide, which should really talk about the workflow. So what does it really mean when these two systems are operating together? So all the way from, threat verification. So as Chris talked about, it's a smarter camera. It's identifying the situation, whether it's guns, weapons, fighting, intrusion. You saw all the models, but they're smart enough to identify those to reduce the false positives and get the right incident to an operator who can verify that event, and then automatically dispatch that to a dispatcher. So there's a couple different roles that are living in the security operations center. But once that dispatch event is created, that dispatcher is assigning that to an individual in the field, whether they're mobile on site, to really go drive that intervention because it's a critical event that's been surfaced out of the 4,000 other events that the cameras have been monitoring and not responding to. But ultimately, that event gets resolved. A client report is created with all of the narrative, the imagery that a client really needs to understand the value of the service that's being provided to them. That can be collated with respect to invoicing and billing across all of those service lines. But ultimately, what those things bring together is a demonstration of value in terms of driving response times, improving safety for your end clients. So that's a simplified workflow, but that's kind of what we'll go through a little bit in the demo. All right, so let's move over to the demo. I will see if I can share my screen here. There we go. All right, so what I'll show you, I am a Scylla expert, so I will show you the Scylla dashboard here, which is really just their alarm hub, the Scylla Alarm Hub, which is kind of consolidating all those alarm events that are verified, right? So not all the noise, but the verification of those events. So you'll see in the Alarm Hub, some of these events that are coming through, whether that's vandalism detection or ultimately gun detection. So I'll pick one here, gun detection. I'm going to choose to acknowledge this one, which really means as an operator, I'm escalating this to be dispatched. And so what we'll see, it's tied to a site. It has a date, time, a location. I'll acknowledge that, say, yes, it's a weapon, pre-canned, or identify the disposition type, but acknowledge that alarm and send that through to TrackTik to ultimately to be dispatched. So you'll see that alarm goes away. I'm going to kind of work the list here and start to clear the rest of these and figure out if I really need to dispatch a human response to that particular event. So I'm going to go over to what we call Command Center. So within Trackforce and the TrackTik solution, this is the dispatch interface that really allows dispatchers to understand kind of what's going on in the field with the workforce. So we have something called calls to action. So understanding if there's thresholds that have been violated, if there's lone worker situations or panic alerts. I've triggered one myself here in the field a while ago. But all of this gives kind of operational awareness to dispatchers around what's going on in the field. And then around active deployment, this is where we are tracking the dispatch request. So you'll see that this one came in a few seconds ago to the Scylla multi-site. It's urgent. And I'm just going to open this up and you'll see in the details that it is gun detection, right? And so when I open the report, you'll see that image come through for the dispatcher to understand the situational awareness, the situation that they're going to be putting someone into when they dispatch someone against this particular event. Not only will you see that, but if you do want to verify what that looks like, having the event and going back into the Scylla alarm hub to really look at the long form version of this clip, that's all possible. And then ultimately, the lat long location of the camera and the exact location so you can actually understand where a guard should be deployed to. In this case, I'm going to assign this to a user in the field. It's an urgent request. In this case, I'm logged in. You can see I'm pretty far away, roughly 500 miles. So I'm not really right next to the site, but demonstrating really how we can say, is it a site-based resource? Are they in the zone? Are they clocked in, same region close by? So that we can actually assign this particular dispatch to this particular individual. So I'm logged in as a user here, assign it. It'll notify the guard on the mobile device and ultimately allow that guard to finish the workflow and go drive the intervention, close out the incident report, document that, and all the while the dispatcher will see the status of what's actually happening with this particular request, as well as communicate through two-way communication with the guard in the field through a chat interface in the mobile app. So when that is done, we tie all of those analytics and reports into an operational dashboard. And so when we look at the operational dashboard, you'll see the kinds of information that we can pull together in terms of the total confirmed threats, the breakdown by incident type, the detection by account, a view of kind of those active dispatches, the longitudinal nature of those requests, and heat maps. So very flexible in terms of how you're really going to run what we would call dispatch analytics, but that's really understanding the impact that you're having for your clients by actually driving responses to those most critical events that are identified by Scylla upstream. So I'll pause there, but that's really just a quick view of how it goes from Scylla. The AI camera is detecting it. It shows up within the TrackTik command center, ultimately gets to an individual in the field to drive a response, and then on the tail end, kind of how the reporting all brings the whole story together. I'll hand it back over to Kara to take
Perfect.
us through the
Thanks,
rest of the
James.
slides here.
All right, let me get my screen back up here. Now would be a great time if you have questions to get them put into the Q&A panel for our team, and will work on getting those answered. A quick plug for everybody. Find us at an upcoming event. If you're going to be at any one of these events coming up in the next couple of weeks, please stop by, say hi, come to our booth. We're going to have a big presence at most of these events, especially GSX. And we'd love to talk to you about this integration as well as some other new and exciting capabilities that we're releasing to the TrackTik platform. All right. All right, so now we have time for Q&A. I'll read out the questions, get those questions in the Q&A panel, and we will get all of them answered. Okay, the first question, I believe this is a question for James. Will Scylla integrate with customized analytics from the data lab, or is all reporting and backend features in the hands of the user?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So as you saw in the demo, all of the metadata, so to speak, that's being captured in Scylla, the important data around an incident is actually being passed through to the report template for the dispatcher. Obviously, the report template that the officer sees in the field, and then obviously all of that will get integrated into data lab reporting and that reporting interface. So they'll identify the incident type, the narrative around that incident, so that all of what has been identified through Scylla upstream can actually surface in the TrackTik reporting.
Perfect. Next question. This is probably a question for Scylla. Can this plug into any GSOC platform?
Yes, so we do have like major integrations with majority of the video management systems, but also GSOC platforms, like you name it, whether that's Emix, Sentinel, Patriot, and many more, right? So we have all in all about 150 integrations with various camera platforms, but also VMS systems and access control systems, etc.
Awesome. All right. What about the next question was about pricing. Is there pricing established for this? How do people get this offered to their current clients?
Yeah, I can address that. So yeah, work with your rep either on the Scylla side or the TrackTik side or Trackforce side. But it's very simple, simple model based on cameras. So we can talk more as kind of you find opportunities, but don't hesitate to reach out to your account executive on either side.
Awesome. And there's another question about integrations across access control systems and intrusion systems. They don't specify Scylla or TrackTik, but so maybe you can both address those.
We do have integrations with access control systems and also intrusion systems as well. So like we have both on the Alarm Hub, but also on the Command Center, which is a native desktop app that can connect to local alarm panels and other IoT devices. And there the support is even larger because we do constantly integrate new partners.
Great. All right. And the questions are still rolling in. Another question on pricing is the pricing of this sounds more like a question for Scylla. Maybe Chris, you can answer this. Is the pricing based upon the quantity of camera or VMS integration, or is it a flat rate? How is that structured?
We try to keep a very simple pricing structure. All of our modules, they're licensed per analytic module per camera. So for example, on camera number 1, you want to do intruder detection. That's one Scylla license. Camera 2, you want that camera to watch for intruders and guns. So that's 2 Scylla licenses deployed on camera number 2, 1 license deployed on camera number 1. Even though it's 2 physical cameras, it's 3 Scylla module licenses. And we license it per module license on a 12-month annual subscription basis. And all of the modules are the same price. They're essentially interchangeable. The only difference is some are a little heavier, some are a little lighter than others, but we can help you right size. We can right size the server, and it is a server component.
Unless you are a central station customer. So for
Exactly.
central station customers, we have a special pricing, which is per camera per month. And we have an ongoing promotion. So if you guys are from central stations, happy to chat with you.
Perfect. All right. If anyone has any further questions, please get those in. We have a couple of more minutes to answer questions. One last one, maybe James, you can answer this, but you were showing TrackTik's command center in the demo. Is that required for this integration? How does that work with kind of the other capabilities of TrackTik?
Yeah, it's a good question. So this integration is directly integrated into Command Center. So Command Center is really this next generation dispatch interface on the TrackTik platform, but the Scylla integration is directly connected to Command Center today.
Okay, great. Thanks for answering that one. And while you were talking, we had 4 new questions.
Oh,
All right, so
good.
Scylla team, can Scylla use public cameras to identify emergencies across a city for new contracts?
So we can use any camera where we have access to the RTSP stream, whether that's public, whether it's private, whether it's air gapped, whether it makes no difference to us. If we can get access to the RTSP stream, Scylla will support that camera.
Great.
And we
And
do have deployments across major smart cities and counties and states and police departments, TOD, etc. So we are used to analyzing thousands and thousands of cameras.
And we are deployed against across real-time crime centers, fusion centers, where we are out actively on public cameras.
great, good to know. Can Scylla assist with scheduling automation?
We do have schedules and special features in the dashboard itself, in the Alarm Hub, right? Like, and you can also create rules which are very customizable based on permissions and then the schedules and detection types and operate activities, etc. Like, and then obviously once you click yes from the dashboard, that will come to Trackforce.
Great. Another question for Scylla, how is data stored on what Scylla sees and learns? How is that data stored?
So we have a zero retention policy in the dashboard. You can define the retention to 90 days or 180 days or 0 days, right? You can also deploy us on edge, and we have deployments on camera level as well. As an example, we work closely with Hanwha Vision, and we are deployed on Hanwha Vision Jetson cameras. So like means the data will stay on the camera, or you can deploy us on premises, like within your customer facilities, and you can control the data policy and retention from that dashboard as well.
We're not trying to replace the VMS. The VMS stays in place. That still does the logging, storing, recording, the extended video. Scylla's that brain that turns the camera into an eye for our brain. As Albert said, we're not even contaminating any of that original video. The VMS splits off a parallel mirrored stream to our Scylla server. And then Scylla examines and watches those video streams live in real time, kind of similar to how a person would sit and monitor a video wall. And if that person doesn't see anything in that video, in that SOC, it's just gone. And that's kind of how Scylla does that when we're monitoring. We're not logging the extended, but as soon as we see that action, that anomaly, that behavior, that event that we were told to watch for, that's when we create the little 1, 3, 5 second video clip. And that's when we create the incident.
Great. Hopefully that clarified the question for you, or clarified the answer for you. All right. What about, we have a question around can integrating Scylla into newer camera systems void any warranties our customers may have on their equipment?
No, there's
no, because like we need to have the strategic partnership with the camera manufacturer. Like, as I said, like as an example, Hanwha Vision, right? So we have this SDK integration with the Hanwha Vision. They host us on the camera, so meaning the warranty is not void because this is coming from the manufacturer. For the cameras, which we are not running on board of the camera, right? Like Axis cameras or any other, right? Like we have, you need to connect us to the cloud or on edge or the customer premises on the server itself. So that's not voiding the camera warranty.
Got it. Another question around what drop-off can we expect to see in effectiveness if we were to integrate Scylla into an older analog 1080p camera system?
As long as it's 1080, there will be no drop, right? Like, and if it's lower than that, then yes, we will have misses and we'll have false positives. Like with every feature we sell, we have a certification and a guideline and also video lessons, right? Like that you can watch, but the minimum requirement is 1080. Anything above that is better, but 1080 does the job very well.
Great. We have a handful of questions kind of relating to how does Scylla differ from competitors and different solutions. Spot AI, Vadio, AI, and Verkada were all mentioned a handful of times. Can you speak to what makes Scylla different?
Yes, so I can speak to that because I'm an engineer myself. So we are the only Western computer vision manufacturer that created its own proprietary neural network. We are not using anything open source. We're not using large vision models, right? Like which are too heavy to be deployed. It's all created by us. It's called SkyWanet and it's benchmarked across many manufacturers. We can publish those, and also the Department of Defense.
That's great.
And it's very lightweight, so you can host it like on various camera levels, like on the chipsets, on edge, etc.
Yeah, and we don't rely on the open source platforms like a YOLO, for example. A lot of the analytic companies that are out there utilize YOLO, which is you only look once, is what it stands for, that open source engine. In fact, Scylla, we are a major contributor to that YOLO platform. We've been cited in over 1,000 academic publications about our contributions to the YOLO platform. So we will always be better, more accurate, lighter weight, fewer false positives. We will always be more accurate than anybody who's using the YOLO platform.
Okay.
I'm seeing Ilya is very active. So Ilya, if you have like any technical questions, you are welcome to send us an email. We can leave it like here as well. So, and then we'll be happy to answer all those, right? Like, and share with you the benchmarks as well. So
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm gonna do a quick peruse for I will put up, we have both of our email addresses up here if you have further questions, or we also have a survey that will pop up at the end when you close Zoom. And there's a spot in there to, tell us what you thought of the content, but also if you specifically want us to reach out to talk to you about these two solutions, there's a place to enter your email address there, and we will reach out to you quickly. And we had a lot in the chat. I'm just going to skim through the chat really quick and make sure a lot of these we did answer. Just want to make sure we captured everything. I think we captured the major question themes that were coming through, a lot of similarities. Question around, will the automation notify authorities, call police, in addition to private security? Are there any capabilities around that?
we do have integrations with Intrado as an example, right? Like Intrado has connections with the majority of the fusion centers, but also 911 centers across the United States. And we do that globally as well with many countries, like in the specific systems that that can come from our side. Or James, maybe you can talk more related to Trackforce.
Yeah, so for now within Command Center, obviously you can fork a dispatch to an actual officer in the field, but also call out to, not automatically yet, but call out to authorities. And then in the field, officers have the ability to trigger a panic alarm and then escalate to public law enforcement directly from the Guard application.
I think we answered most of the major questions, and I see here that Albert put his email into the chat for deeper questions that you might have or be willing to set up a conversation. So I'm gonna leave that. Feel free to reach out to him. Also, you can, we'll be following up with everyone at the end of this session to be able to, thank you. Okay, we are getting some email addresses for some additional questions. We'll absolutely reach out to you to get something scheduled so we can get all of your questions answered if you're interested. And I think that about wraps it up. Again, a survey will launch. We'd love to hear your feedback on what you thought of this session today, as well as if you want us to reach out to you directly to schedule a deeper discussion. I want to thank our presenters today, especially Albert, for joining us last minute when Ashat, had some very exciting things to attend to. And thank you, Chris. Thank you, James, everyone. We will share a recording of the webinar, and we will push that out. This will be available on demand. So if you have colleagues that weren't able to attend live, we will be sending that in the follow-up. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.